And I'll just come out and say it that this one is my own personal pick of the week. And I have a few reasons for that. First off, I absolutely love the theme on this one. This is called Fromage, so as you expect, players are going to be playing as cheesemakers. You're going to be creating all sorts of gourmet cheese, and I absolutely love the artwork that goes along with it, and of course the cute little meeples that players will be using to build up their creamery throughout the game. But another thing that I like about this one is that this is not only a worker placement game, but it's also a simultaneous worker placement game, which means that all players are going to be doing their worker placement at the same time. And the reason that this is possible is because the board is going to be split up into 4 different areas, and you can only put your workers in the area that's in front of you. But you might be wondering, if you can only interact with the section that's in front of you, how do you ever interact with the other areas of the board? And the answer to that is that this is also a lazy Susan. So after every single round, you're going to be rotating that board and putting a new section in front of you. And I really like the way that this is done in this game, because unlike a lot of other games, this one doesn't feel so much like a gimmick, because it does actually serve a very functional purpose in this game. Because on your turn, you'll be able to place out 1 or 2 workers. You'll be able to put 1 worker in the bottom section and 1 worker in the top section. For any of the workers that you put in the bottom, you're going to be putting your colored cheese there first, indicating that you're going to be creating that type of cheese. And then you need to assign the worker matching that cheese type in order to make that cheese. But some cheeses will take longer to age than others in order to complete that cheese, and you only get your worker back once that cheese is properly aged. And the way that this is represented is by the rotation of the board, because each of these cheeses is facing a different direction, and the direction it faces indicates how long it's going to take to create that cheese, because you only get your worker back once your worker is facing towards you. So if you place a worker that's directly away from you, you're not going to get it back until it fully rotates 180 degrees so that that worker is facing you. I'm normally not a fan of players having their own spot where they put workers on their turn, because it does make games normally feel like more of a competitive solo game. But the reason that I like the way that it's done in this game is because even though you are sectioned to your own spot to put your workers on your turn, you still are dealing with the consequences of the other players, because the cheese that they make there and the orders that are already completed are going to be taking up spaces of the board, and each of these 4 locations are going to be representing 4 different venues that have different ways that they score and different objectives that players are going to be trying to achieve. What's really cool about these locations is that they are triple layered, which means that you can slide a board into it, creating more variety and different board configurations every time you play the game. And you can also put these boards in different orders, which can also change up the feel of the game as well. I really love the combination here with rotating the board to get access to new locations, but then also using that rotation to indicate when you get your worker back, because I feel like they're taking full potential of this lazy Susan and making it very streamlined and easy to play. But like I said, whichever location you're currently placing your workers at, you do have to deal with the decisions and consequences made by the other players, because these different spaces are going to be slowly filling up with each of the players' cheeses, because as players are putting out those cheese, they actually stay there for the rest of the game. And some of these locations are going to be scoring based on area control and the amount of your color that you have in a specific region, while others might be scoring depending on completing different orders and tables, or even scoring based on completing different patterns and having your colored cheese adjacent to each other. But like I said, you can place up to 2 workers on your turn, but there's a few reasons why you may not want to do that. First off, you're going to be limiting the amount of workers that you have, and you do want to try and make cheese as much as possible because you are racing against the other players. But if you feel like you do have an extra worker, you can use that second worker to place at the center of the board within your quadrant. And that's going to be earning you the associated special resource, which can either be a order card, which if you fulfill it will grant you some additional points at the end of the game, or it can grant you some fruit which you can infuse and augment your cheese with, or it can also allow you to upgrade your creamery, which I will get to in a second. And finally, it can also grant you milk, which is really nice to have because even though you can play 2 workers, like I said, only 1 can be played in the bottom and only 1 can be played at the top of the quadrant. But if you spend your milk, that allows you to make more cheese, and you can actually place both of your workers at the bottom. This is really nice, allowing you to get to multiple places before your opponents have a chance. And it also speeds up the end of the game because each player is only limited to 15 cheese tokens for the entirety of the game. And once a single player runs out of all those tokens, that's going to be triggering the end of the game. But like I said, each player does have their own creamery that they're going to be managing throughout the game and also using to track their available resources. And there's going to be a few different things going on here. The first one is that you'll be able to build different structures on your creamery in order to unlock special abilities. You'll also be able to generate milk from your various livestock in order to create more cheese, like I had just mentioned. And you can also have an area to grow different types of fruit that you can use to infuse your cheese with. And then the bottom of the board is where you're going to be putting any of your completed order cards. But the interesting thing here is that whenever you complete an order card, it's always going to be associated with one of the cheeses that you put out on the main board. There's 4 different locations out on the main board, so of course there's 4 different locations located at the bottom of your player board. Anytime you complete an order, you're going to be putting it underneath the location where you completed that order. And then at the end of the game, you're going to be earning points equal to the square of that number. So if you have 2 cards there, you're going to be earning 4 points. If you have 3 cards there, you're going to be earning 9 points, so on and so forth. So the more cards that you have stacked there is going to be increasing your victory point potential exponentially. Really interesting game here. I think it has quite the potential to be a real hit. I love seeing new Euro games that look really, really well designed, but then also bring in some new ideas as well. And I think this one is checking off all those boxes. I'm really excited for this one, and if you are too, you can check it out in the description below, and of course, click to get notified.